I should have gotten my vampire cape out for this one. Starting to pick up again. My last video was a review for Abduction with Taylor Lautner, and I was talking about wanting to do a review for Straw Dogs, the remake of the Sam Peckinpah movie from 1971. So yeah, 40-year-old movie. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that, simply because I am not familiar enough with the Peckinpah movie to where I feel I can really make a comparison between the two that could fill up an entire video. I got halfway through rewatching the Peckinpah movie, and I just, I have other stuff to do. Not that, granted, I don't really have a whole lot of other stuff to do in the, in a real professional sense, but I kind of feel like I have other things to watch and other things to plan. I've started writing again. I've got stuff on my plate. So I held it off. My quick review of Straw Dogs. It's a decent remake. It's pretty interesting. If you haven't seen the original, go check out the original. I would recommend that more. But if you like the original, see the new version. It has changed the locale to a completely different setting and a different type of people. The situation is the same, but it still changes things around enough to make it interesting. The reason why I'm even bringing this up is because of the fact that the movie I want to talk about today is Fright Night. Specifically Fright Night, I guess even here they just straight up call it Fright Night 3D. The new movie starring Anton Yelchin, I think you pronounce it. Chekhov from Star Trek, and from Brett Ratner's segment of New York I Love You, which was by far my favorite segment of that movie. Yeah. I went to see both that and One Day today, the Anne Hathaway, Jim Sturgis movie, and I really I like both of them. I think that, I can't believe I'm saying this, I kind of think that Fright Night is a stronger movie for what it is, because One More Day is just sort of One More Day, wow, fuck, I'm not talking about Spider-Man here. One Day is a little more formulaic and a standard to what you would expect from what it is. It's a classic tearjerker love story. I recently watched The Notebook because I was after Crazy Stupid Love, I decided to see a couple of Ryan Gosling movies I have. I saw Lars and the Real Girl, and I saw The Notebook, stuff like that. And yeah, it kind of feels like The Notebook. And The Notebook itself doesn't feel original. It was a good movie, but also the production company Focus Features, they're kind of responsible for making some of my favorite movies of the year, like Hannah and Beginners. They made Coraline, Brokeback Mountain. They make really good stuff. But this movie felt kind of because of the fact that, as I said, it doesn't really feel original. Again, not bad. I was invested. I have to admit the movie probably got a little less, effective because I actually knew the ending, or I knew the final major action in the film, and therefore it's something that's supposed to change everything up, and it really didn't because I knew it was going to happen because my mother read the book, and I was like, so how does it end? Because I'm a fucking idiot. So yeah, that was a solid movie, and if you read the book, I've heard mixed things. Some people saying that it's a really good interpretation of the book and that you should see it. Others saying it's atrociously bad and it's fucked up the book entirely. So make up your own mind. I'm saying if you've read the book or you just want to see Anne Hathaway be Anne Hathaway, go see that movie. It didn't feel too long. It was an hour and 50 minutes long, and I kind of felt like both these movies were kind of short. Even though I felt Abduction was a lot shorter, even though it was kind of up there too, because that movie was just hilarious. But anyway, so that's a quickie review of Straw Dogs and a quickie review of One Day. But now let's get to the main business here. Fright Night. I have to admit, I've got mixed feelings about the original Fright Night, and I have mixed feelings about the new Fright Night. Again, just like with Abduction, I'm going to go through different aspects of this movie and make sort of an analysis. Not like with Abduction, where I straight up try to go from point A to point B to point C and point out the entire plot and how stupid it is. but I am going to be spoiling this movie up the ass once I get to the analysis part. I'm going to make a straight up comparison, like I was planning to do with Straw Dogs, where I compare the characters and the plot and the pacing and all that stuff. But I'm going to go and just say the pointers for people that just want to know if this movie's good. Okay. I gotta say, I hate the notion that horror movies have to be, you know, these dark Saw-ish kind of movies. Like, everything these days feels like it follows this exact formula where you, as soon as you watch the movie, pretty much, you realize the characters are going to die. Me and a friend actually discussed this, I think it must have been a year ago, but we were discussing, like, he was like, why don't you like to watch horror movies that much anymore? Because I used to be a real horror movie buff. I saw the original Fright Night 2 years ago, and I rewatched it twice since. Don't really remember that well anyway. I remember the main characters and all that stuff, but he asked me why I'm sort of like cranking down on horror movies and just like really just trying to tear them a new one when they get in discussion. I said, because I don't like the fact that the entire genre is made up of just movies where you know when you walk into the theater, this is going to end up with either the main characters dying right off or you're just going to have to assume they died. It's like, well, there are all these other movies that end up with people always surviving and getting happily ever after, so someone's got to do the whole sad ending thing. Like, yeah, but horror movie, like, no genre should be completely like dominated by a formula of how a movie should end. Basically, Insidious' entire other half was crap because, like, you could tell the movie totally shifted in tone, and I kind of felt like, ooh, maybe this isn't going to be a standard horror movie, and then when the second half kicked in and they changed genre completely, I realized, oh, wait, fuck, no, this is going to be everything else that's coming out these days. It's going to be the exact same formula. None of these characters that I've even tried to like is going to, like, matter in the end of it. And I'm not going to say anything about Insidious. Like that movie has, like, there's no open, like, there is no really shut ending about if people die or live or whatever, but it does have one of those, ooh, they probably all died endings. So yeah, I just spoiled Insidious for you. You're welcome. Stop wasting your time. Watch the first 40 minutes of it and then stop. But anyway, so yeah, horror movies in general are kind of pissing me off because they're all following the same formula. They all feel dark and grimy and filled with blood in a way that I don't really like because Saw made torture porn cool. And even though Saw isn't really doing it anymore, and Paranormal Activity has allowed horror movies to get a little more subtle and go back to the classic formula of trying to just scare the crap out of you with a little more like cinematic trickery. I feel like one thing I've been missing is, you know, the classic ghost, not ghost stories, but classic horror movies from my youth. Like the movies that scared me when I was a kid. Like not just slasher movies, even though Halloween is my favorite horror movie of all time. But I think I would have to go back to even books. Like, when I was a kid, I was a big fan of Goosebumps, which is really hard because I live in Sweden and had to have them, like, flown here by my grandma. She would send me boxes, like 10 books at a time, and I'd be like crazy. But, like, a standard thing in all these books, not all of them, but a lot of them was, you know, the motif of the one guy or girl who realizes that their neighbor is an alien, like a vampire or werewolf. That was so awesome. Like, it was a standard formula and it was very predictable. You know, point A, guy starts suspecting something, then like, plot point B, sees it and then gets it confirmed, then C tries to convince friend / girlfriend / mother / father / brother or sister or whatever, and they don't believe them and make fun of them, and point D, proven, and then point God damn it, I don't know what point I'm on anymore. Anyway, you know, the formula is really simple. But yeah, my problem has been with vampire movies, and like especially vampire movies, is that I love vampires a lot, but there are very few vampire movies that I really genuinely like. The original Dracula, the first Hammer Dracula. And honestly, except for them, I like Interview with the Vampire. I have not seen. but as far as I've heard, I have it here. I'm going to watch it before Halloween is through. I think that movie has the same problem that most vampire stories have. The sexuality. And I know that's something I should not be complaining about, because the first Dracula novel that made vampires something at all was incredibly sexual. It was entirely about vampires' desire to get and like turn Mina into a vampire. I'm oversimplifying, of course, but that was one of the main things like in the core of that story. So vampires and sex have always gone hand in hand, but I kind of admit I don't like that, because it's become so important to the story that it sometimes like goes ahead of the overall like just uncomfortable like scare, like the scare of the beast that wants to come and get you. And this is where Fright Night comes in. Like, as I said, the original Dracula, the Hammer Dracula, and Nosferatu, like anything based on, like, not anything. I hate Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola. Or hate's a strong word, but I really don't think that movie's good. It's hilarious, but it's really bad. But Nosferatu, the first Dracula with Bela Lugosi, and then the first Christopher Lee Hammer Dracula. Those are the only three like real vampire stories I really like. And then I would say Let the Right One In and Let Me In, but they feel like a completely different animal. But then say 5 movies that I really like, and then there's a 6th one, which is Fright Night. There are probably some others I'm forgetting as well, but as far as I can just think of, like off the top of my head, it's 3 Draculas, and then 2 books, 2 movies based on the same book. So again, there are 2 different stories that have led to 5 movies that I really like. But Fright Night by Tom Holland is one of the best, like, corny, just downright fun and enjoyable horror movies of the 80s. It has that classic Goosebumps like story, but with a teenager, where he's a nerdy kid who likes horror movies. And I was wondering how they were going to translate that. And they've changed some stuff up. Okay, before I actually even get into the analysis, I forgot to just give my point review. I went into a very long explanation of why this movie has been very interesting for me to just like look forward to. Say, actors: Colin Farrell, Anton Yelchin, Imogen Poots. I'm finally going to remember her name because I've seen her in 28 Weeks Later and Jane Eyre. I've seen her in a couple of things now. Toni Collette and Christopher Mintz-Plasse. Like, this movie, unlike the original, really has this cast you recognize, or like most of them at least. So they all do their jobs. I really like them. Imogen Poots is incredibly adorable to look at, if anything, and she's a pretty good actress. So it's like she's a step up from the original. But then again, that movie is made in like the beginning or mid '80s. I think it's the mid '80s. So that movie's old, and therefore it hasn't really aged that well. But yeah, all the bit players do their jobs really well. I think Colin Farrell is kind of, but I'm not really a Colin Farrell guy at all anyway. Toni Collette doesn't get a whole lot to do, but she's good in the scenes she's in. Anton Yelchin I really like. I don't know why even. Again, I've only seen him in 3 things. I've seen him in this, I've seen him in Star Trek, and I've seen him in that New York I Love You segment. But I think it's the New York I Love You segment that really makes me like him. And then Christopher Mintz-Plasse, who I still don't understand why people wanted their movies. I mean, he can't fucking talk right. I mean, I was saying to my mom, I feel sorry for him in a way. I mean, once his nerdy thing once he can't play these nerdy teenagers anymore, like the one, like Red Mist and Kick-Ass, or McLovin, or Here, is he ever gonna get a good role again, or is he gonna get anything? He's gonna, like, unless he has some sort of surgery to fix that nasal problem he has and that lisp he has, he can't really be getting a whole lot, can he? Because you can only play Goofy for that long without having to, like, you know, grow up. And since his problems are deeper than just, like, him acting a certain way, they're actually physical defects, I have a hard time seeing how he's going to get anywhere. Yeah. Anyway, the first Fright Night I really like, and the same thing goes for this movie. It is surprisingly effective. Maybe not it being a horror movie. I was never frightened or anything, but it is exciting. It has a great pacing. I think the pacing is better here than it is in the original. The characters are more modern, obviously, and I think they're better for it. I wasn't even alive when the original came out, so maybe that's why I am like saying that these characters are better. I was sitting there saying which movie's better, like just trying to work it out when I was watching the movie, analyzing scene by scene and all the aspects, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And by the end of the movie, I was going to say that I actually think that this movie is better than the original, because of the pacing especially. I didn't think it at first, but yeah, this movie is good. I really enjoyed it, and I thought I wasn't going to. But yeah, so yeah, it changed again, just like with Straw Dogs. Changes locale, changes some of the ideas. It actually mixes up the characters a little bit, because in the original, this isn't spoiling anything. This is just saying it mixes up the characters. In the original, Charlie's a doof who can't really do anything. He's incompetent. Anton Yelchin is not incompetent in this movie. His Charlie is a different character. Basically, the only characters that really had anything in the old version, like Amy, the girlfriend, here played by Imogen Poots, who in the original was played by Amanda Beers, I think it is. Marcy from Married with Children. Maybe that's the reason why I have a hard time giving the old movie props over the new one. God damn it, I hate being reminded of that fucking terrible show. Anyway, the Amy in the original movie didn't really have a personality. She was whiny, and she wanted Charlie's attention. That was her character in a nutshell. This girl starts out sort of a little bit like that. She's flirty, and neither Charlie nor his friends can really say anything about what the hell why she wants him, but she gets a whole lot more to work with. It's an exciting movie, and all the characters are more developed because they've taken all the aspects of different characters from the original and just swapped them around so everyone has more to do. So I'm gonna just say that it's a good movie. I recommend anyone who wants to see something that's mildly scary this Halloween, check out Fright Night and Attack the Block. Again, hasn't come out here in Sweden in the theaters yet, and I've already seen the movie 4 times, and I really love it, and I'm going to go see it in the theater, even though I can watch it as many times as I want, because I love Attack the Block. Okay, that's it. Good movie. That's my short review, and now, as you might have been able to tell, I really want to talk about I want to start analyzing this movie. So, stop here if you don't want these characters or this plot. I will probably give away the ending at a point. Everything will be spoiled. Stop watching, because now we start analyzing. I guess I should start with the thing I was already starting to talk about, which is the characters being developed more. I found it kind of weird how this movie changes everything up right away. Unlike the original that has a real build-up, where Charlie is lying in his room, making out with his girlfriend, and then starts seeing his neighbors doing this weird thing in their yard, basically making it a monster version of Rear Window. He starts suspecting that something's wrong. And this movie does has parts of that a little bit, but really it just begins with you get to see this kid get killed, who then turns out as one of the friends of the main character, and Ed, played by Christopher Mintz-Plasse, that they used to be best friends. Charlie and Ed, Christopher and Anton, they used to be best friends, but Charlie decided that he was going to be cool, so he dumped his nerdy friends to be awesome. Which makes Charlie look like a real fucking asshole. And that was one of my original problems with the movie when I first started watching it, was that in this movie, Ed is the one. In the original movie, Ed was one of the best and worst things of the entire film. He was an annoying asshole with a really high-pitched voice who had this straight-up hyena laugh that he would just go around Oh, really, Brewster? You're such an idiot. He was so annoying, but at the same time, because Charlie was so bland and just like, he's a vampire, he brought a little flavor to the movie. This movie does not have that problem with his main character, and even though I first thought that, wow, Charlie is an asshole, I don't like him, why don't I like him? I realized why I didn't like him. Because they realized through this movie, and again, this movie's story is written, like, not the script, but the story itself is written by Tom Holland, the guy who wrote and directed the original. So this movie has his blessing, and I think it's probably because of him that he realized, like, the big things that were lacking in the original is the fact that Charlie is a wimp. Sure, he's in the right. We know that he's right about this vampire thing, and we know that. And Tom Holland understands that most of the people watching this movie identifying with this character are fucking crazy horror movie buffs who sit in their rooms watching, like, Monster Madness. It was a different time. But Charlie didn't really develop. I mean, yes, he developed in the sense that he got the balls to stand up and fight a vampire, but as a character, he doesn't really change a whole lot, except for the fact that, again, fighting a vampire. But what they did in the remake is that they give Ed the characteristic of the guy that cries vampire in the beginning. He's like he pulls Charlie aside in like the first 20 minutes and says, "Yo, we gotta talk." And then he just starts going off on this whole tangent when they go to see their friend, who is the one I think that gets eaten in the beginning of the movie, in the first scene. He's all like, "We need to talk. Our friend is missing, and I think your neighbor is a vampire." And I'm like, really? And the original Ed was, if anything, probably the most skeptic of anyone. He was laughing, and he went along with Charlie on this for a little while because he thought it was hilariously stupid to see one of his friends, and you don't really even know other friends in the original. This movie, if anything, goes out of the way to beat you over the head with that they used to be best friends, and Charlie dumped them so he could be cool. In the original, it was just kind of like they knew each other. I mean, Charlie even pays him at one point to like do stuff for him, to tell him how to kill a vampire, because this guy who sits in his room playing, like, watching monster movies doesn't know how you kill a vampire. But they're in this house, and Ed is explaining to Charlie about the whole vampire thing, and he's gonna kill us all. He knows. Like he's a vampire, your neighbor, we gotta kill him. And at first I was really annoyed with, why are they giving Ed if anything, comic relief or whatever? Why are they giving him the whole, I know he's a vampire thing, and have Charlie be the skeptic? But after a while I started realizing that I was in the wrong. I'm glad they did that, because me not liking Charlie gave him clear character development. He went from being a backstabbing asshole to someone that, at least, even though, as I said, I'm going to spoil this. So when Ed eventually dies, and because of it becomes a vampire himself, he is willing to admit, maybe not to Ed directly, but he says to his girlfriend that this is all my fault. I ignored Ed. I tried to be cool, and I became an asshole in the process. And it's good. It gives you a reason to care. It changes Charlie's character a little bit, and that's much appreciated, because he's less bland here. Now, I've explained Ed as well. You see, he has more. He gets dispatched really early on, in like the first hour or the half hour, 40 minutes. Ed disappears from the movie, which is pretty good, because I don't want to see Christopher Mintz-Plasse. He comes back later on, much later on, but he has a lot less screen time than the original Ed did, which is both a good and bad thing, because, let's face it, as I said, Ed was the best and worst thing about the original, and here it's kind of like, I don't want to hear Christopher Mintz-Plasse like go around being crazy and talking in a stupid voice. And in fact, this is one of the characters that when he's human, I really like him. When he's telling Charlie to go fuck himself, basically, because we used to be best friends and now you don't even want to talk to me because you're an asshole and you're stupid. I really like that part of it. But when he turns into a vampire, comes back and tries to be all witty and funny, he fails miserably. So That's my problem with this movie, is that, but also something I really like is the fact that everything I don't like about the original is pretty much eradicated here. But all the things I love about the original are not like, you know, topped. There's no moment here where I feel this movie really one-ups the original. At least not when it's not something I couldn't complain about before. This movie's ending, for example, like that final end game, can't hold a candle to the original, but that is because, I can also say that this movie's pacing and action throughout is 100 times better. So the original movie has a lot better climax, but this movie has a lot more action throughout. Yeah, again, getting ahead of myself. Colin Farrell versus Chris Sarandon, it kinda just becomes a matter of preference. Chris Sarandon looks like a prissy in the original, but at the same time, I think I prefer Chris Sarandon, maybe because I like him more, I like him because he's Jack Skellington's speaking voice. I don't really know why. I haven't really seen that much with Chris Sarandon, it's like that movie and Child's Play. But I still feel like in the new movie, it's so obvious that that Colin Farrell is a bad guy. And again, in the original, you know that Charlie's right pretty much off the bat. But it feels like the way Chris Sarandon's character acts all suave, and he manages to lure everyone to believe that he is this good guy, that he's just like maybe a little bit too much of a charmer, but that's what makes him such a good villain. In the remake, basically, there is this scene, if I recall correctly, in the original where Charlie realizes that his mother has invited Chris Sarandon's character into the house, and he's all shocked, like, oh fuck, you invited the vampire and now we're not safer anymore. And I thought that scene was going to come in the remake, but it doesn't. Instead, Colin Farrell blows up the house. It's like, wow, subtlety much? So yeah, I think that Colin Farrell's vampire is not as subtle, and even though I don't really like the over-sexually, tones of vampire movies, I still like the subtlety of, that Dracula has, that is, trying to pretend that he's something he's not, just so he can get you to trust him, so he can then take advantage of you. I appreciate that, and even though this movie starts out having that, it doesn't have that throughout. But again, that's just direct analysis of the character. I actually, again, still, when Colin Farrell blows up the house 45 minutes in or whatever it is, that's great. Again, I'd seen the original, did not see that coming. I loved it because it changed everything up, and that meant that we had an hour or 50 minutes left of fucking action, and fucking 50 minutes of just running from a vampire. The original did not have that, and god damn, this movie delivered on that. Let's see here. Again, I already explained, Toni Collette, she plays the mother. She kind of reminds me more of Carrie-Anne Moss from Disturbia. This movie reminds me a lot of Disturbia, at least in its first act. Go figure, Rear Window, like he was talking about Rear Window, and Disturbia is a Rear Window knockoff, or reimagining for kids. She doesn't have a whole lot to do, but she's good in every scene she's in. Imogen Poots, as I already said, incredibly cute girl. She is amazingly attractive. I really like her in this movie. I've seen her in Jane Eyre and 28 Weeks Later, as I already explained, and I'm glad she's a good choice of girlfriend. And they give her a whole lot more to do here, because in the original, Amy was a whining character that just came. She was yelly. She was whiny and needy, and she was kind of annoying. In this movie, she's more proactive. Charlie doesn't know why she wants to be with him, really, and he counts his lucky stars that he got her, but at the same time, it basically gets to the point where in the original, Amy is just this, she just threatens to leave him all the time, and this Amy is a lot more, resilient. She is really going to show Charlie. She decides in the scene where Colin Farrell blows up their house, she pretty much just says, look, you're not getting rid of me. Whatever this is, we'll work it out together. And then he gets under the part where he's trying to just explain that this is something that he can't really explain, and it's dangerous, and the more she knows, the more she's in danger. And then Colin Farrell blows up the house. But I really appreciate the fact that she says that you can't just get rid of me, get rid of me like that. This isn't this kind of thing. Even though she's kind of like, flirtatious and doesn't really want to label them as boyfriend and girlfriend up until that point, it's obvious that she really, really likes Charlie, probably even loves him. And I like that the character has that depth to it. So yeah, those are the characters. I really like them. I like all the characters, except for Colin Farrell's vampire. And again, that's not his acting as much, even though he does what the character is written to do, and that is be incredibly unsubtle. The best scene he probably has in the entire film is when he sort of confronts Charlie when Charlie is coming home, and asks Charlie if he can get borrow a 6-pack of beer out of their fridge. And they have this pretty tense moment where Charlie is still trying to figure out if Ed is right. He knows Ed is missing, and he is pretty sure that the neighbor Jerry is somehow involved. So he tests the theory by taking him out to the kitchen, like, can you give me some beers? And it's like, okay, I'll get the beers. And Jerry is standing in the doorway, and, just standing in the doorway because a vampire can't get into the house unless he's invited in. And you can see, like, this whole thing playing out. Like, both the characters are trying to figure out if the other knows. You can see how Colin Farrell, being as unsubtle as he is still trying to be sort of subtle, and he's still trying somehow, like, does this kid know that I'm a vampire? Does he know that I can't get in, or what? And Anton Yelchin's, like, Charlie is just trying to be like, oh, okay, oh shit, I don't know, can I trust this guy or not? And he drops a beer on the ground, like on the floor, and it shatters. He's like, oh, let me help you with that. He's like, no, you stay where you are. I'll fix this myself. And, like, they have this whole tense moment, and it's really effective. And it's probably the best scene that Colin Farrell directly has with another character, when he's not just going around being like this unsubtle vampire guy. As for the pacing, I already explained, like the house blows up in the middle of the movie somewhere, and Colin Farrell just says that, I can't be invited into the house if there's no house. And I really like that change, because at that point the movie stops being really a remake and just like takes the premise and runs with it in a different direction. Which is, for example, why I love Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead and consider it by far his best movie to date, because it really only shares the name and the concept. That's it. Like, zombies in a mall, go. And that's why I love it, because it makes me feel like I don't really need to feel like I'm pissing on the original's legacy by saying I like the remake, because I still like the original, and because it does something different with the same concept, it makes it feel fresh, and not just like I'm watching a flashier version of the original. Or The Day the Earth Stood Still. I actually forgot to mention a character. A pretty damn important character. The only other character I don't like as much in this one. And that is because he comes into the movie kind of late, even though they show him a little every once in a while, which is David Tennant's Peter Vincent. Now, you got David Tennant going up against Roddy McDowall. It's not really a fair fight. They're both... unlike the vampire, which is basically just like a matter of taste, like subtle versus unsubtle, these characters couldn't really be more different. At all, basically. There's a very big difference in this character. In the original movie, Peter Vincent is a horror host who, has the Dracula cape, and he introduces horror movies, and he acts like a douche. And he doesn't believe Charlie at all, and Charlie's stupid enough to think that Peter Vincent is for real. And he eventually realizes that Charlie is on the up and up, and that this guy really is a vampire. It's a lot more straightforward with just the fact that he's just like a hoax, because, well, he's an actor. In the new movie, he is this weird, flashy... This movie has changed location to Vegas, which is really great, because the whole desert thing, the movie begins with a panning shot of, like, this small little plot of land where, like, oh, like, what is it, like 150 houses are standing, like square, and then there's, like, one road away on either side of the town that leads to Vegas or not Vegas. So, like, you really feel like they're confined, and they have to drive into Vegas to even get to civilization, and if you can even call Vegas civilization. But anyway, David Tennant's character is, like, Peter Vincent is more of a, like, he's a flashy, like, gothic magician thing with an occult motif. And, well, he doesn't believe Charlie either, but they've changed his character to the point where he actually does believe in vampires and all this shit, only he has tried to convince himself that he doesn't, because the ending of, like, the movie, it turns out that, oh my god, Colin Farrell killed his parents when he was a kid. And I like the new character. I like him too, but I don't think he's as good as the original Peter Vincent, because he's not played by an actor that I'm as familiar with, that, like, doesn't have the same, like the old movie treats Roddy McDowall like he really is a legend, because, hey, to a certain extent, he is a legend. I mean, god damn it, he's in the fucking Planet of the Apes movies and, like, Lassie and shit. But they treat him with more reverence, and therefore he feels more fleshed out in a way. And he doesn't get played for as much humor as the new Peter Vincent does. But I like them both a lot, because, again, they've changed the character so much it feels like two completely different people. It's just this time I think the original is more simple, and in this case I think simplicity is better. Now, what else? I guess I should point out, for example, before I move on with any sort of real analysis again, is that the 3D is stupid. I think the 3D is fun, and it's totally okay. In fact, I'm going to pre-order the 3-disc Blu-ray combo where you get the 3D Blu-ray, the normal Blu-ray, and the DVD, because I want that fucking 3D Blu-ray. But I'm always of the mind that a Blu-ray, like a 3D movie, is supposed to just make everything feel more fleshed out, not be one of those movies where you just shove stuff in your face. And this movie has, like, I think at least 10 to 15 throwing shit at the camera moments. Like, there's blood spraying at least 3 or 4 times where blood just goes like semen flying towards the screen. Or, like, when Christopher Mintz-Plath's Ed gets bitten by Colin Farrell, he's in a swimming pool and he drops his crucifix he's holding in his hand, and the crucifix slowly glides towards the screen. It's like, oh my god, the crucifix is gonna kill us all. So and they throw stakes at the screen and arrows at the screen. It's fine, I don't really mind it that much, but it kind of does distract a little bit, because I don't want that. I know some people, like, it all comes down to what you want from 3D. I know some people who straight up want that when they go to the 3D movie. They think 3D is crap unless they throw shit at the screen. I want movies to just feel like Captain America did. Feel like more three-dimensional. I want it to feel like more of a backdrop, like a stage, than it does just like a screen. So, yeah, this movie's 3D is stupid, but then again, if you want a stupid 3D movie, I guess this year's only entries are either this or Drive Angry, and Drive Angry's already stopped playing. So unless you have a 3D Blu-ray player, or you know, go watch Fright Night, because that movie has pretty stupid 3D, but it doesn't, I should also say, it doesn't, like, you know, it doesn't ruin the experience. It doesn't make the movie any less enjoyable, except there are a couple of scenes, and I don't think there's really one, really, and that is exactly after the house exploding, where the characters are trying to flee into Main Vegas, where Colin Farrell is hiding under their truck, under their car. They're in, like, this Volkswagen, like the Chrysler Voyager or something like that. They're in, like, one of these big cars, and I couldn't really see clearly because it's at night and he's in the shadows under the car, and when you're wearing the 3D glasses, it makes the screen extra dark, so it's like dark, like dark setting, dark time of day, dark glasses. But it was surprisingly good, even though some of the scenes are, like, there's a lot of darkness because it's a vampire movie. Oh God! Like, what else should I really say? I don't really want. I don't want to like spoil the action sequences or anything, because I think all the action's pretty good. Some of the dialogue in the beginning, like the first conversation between Ed and Charlie, where Charlie is completely saying that, oh, you're crazy, Ed, this entire vampire thing is stupid. That conversation is really hard to get right, and I don't think this movie really does get it right. And it had, like, Charlie's reactions to his old best friend saying that, Joe, I think your neighbor is a vampire, son, does not feel genuine, and maybe it shouldn't feel genuine, but I kind of feel like he's too accepting of it. But I'm trying to think if there's anything really more to say. As I said, it's really like, it is a 3-act structure. It's the build-up, then there's the chase, like the whole chase sequence when Charlie and his girlfriend and his mother in the beginning are running away from the vampires, and then the third where, just like in the original, he's got to fight the vampire for his girlfriend. Of course, that was the thing I forgot to mention. As I said, the original movie has sort of a slow build-up, and then the last 25 minutes or something is one of the most spectacular, like, finales in any corny horror movie ever. And as I said, this movie does not have as good a, like, finale, but I still feel this movie is better because of the fact that it has better action throughout. Unlike the original, which just pretty much has that last, like, final battle to really boast with, this movie has the house blowing up, the chase from the house, and then pretty much the entire movie after that is like them trying to like, even though it's not always like run, there are always like, it's still like, you know, they're being chased. They're still being chased by the vampire for the rest of that movie, so half the movie is sort of a chase movie. It's more exciting and more engaging than Abduction is. That movie is entirely based on running away from people. So, yeah. I don't know if there's anything else to say. I think the effects are pretty decent. Like, when vampires are burning up and stuff like that, it's really, really obvious. Like, the CG's pretty bad in a lot of ways. But that's probably the best 3D effect, is when ashes are flying out the screen. Like, ashes are in front of the characters. At the end of the movie, it kind of almost gets in the way. Like, ashes everywhere and shit. Houses burning and stuff. But it's still good because it looks genuine. It makes it look like a little more real. That's the kind of stuff I want to see. Like, you know, snow flying in front of the characters. Yeah, I don't want to talk about anything more specific than that. Because I said, this is an analysis, not a complete walkthrough of the entire movie. Unlike Abduction, where everything fails, this movie actually succeeds in a whole lot of ways. I gave the movie a 3 out of 5. I think I might actually have to raise it to a 4, because I really want to see this movie again, actually. If anything, just to see Imogen Pooh, because she's really, really cute. So yeah, go see Fright Night. I enjoyed it, and I'll be back with a new review in like a couple of weeks. Maybe I'll even try to do a Contagion video next week, but I'm not going to stop promising stuff because, as I said, last time I said I was going to make a Straw Dogs video, and that didn't really happen. So, that's it. Talk to you guys later.